I mean, all this sounds like if I'm just saying, look, collaborate, there's always going to be a solution. The truth is, not all negotiation, not all interest can be reconciled. I mean, think of it this way. If you have a hunter, okay, who's like, I'm going to hunt a lion. Why? Because I want to take the skin for some weird reason, and that's going to be a trophy. And then there is this lion that is thinking, I'm hungry and I need to eat something. Oh, look, there's a hunter. In this case, okay, none of those interests can be, they just can't be reconciled, okay? So somebody's going to win, someone is going to lose, and leave lions alone. They have their lion-related problems, okay, and hyenas to deal with. So there's this guy who runs a bakery. Let's call him Alex. And he gets his chocolates supplied from Susan. Basically, Alex is the buyer and Susan is the supplier. Susan notifies Alex that the price of chocolate is going to be increasing due to changes in the market. What do you think Alex is going to do? I mean, think about it. So we have input, process, outputs, so basically the pastry, bakery, whatever, right? And if we increase a price in the inputs, which is what Susan is doing with the chocolates, then that means Alex's cakes or whatever it is that he's doing, okay? Either he's going to increase a price there, and that means explaining to his customers why things are suddenly high, or he might say, I'm not doing this and I'm going to find another supplier. But then the problem is, if Susan decides to increase the price of chocolates, then she's probably aware that Alex is not going to go anywhere. So there's a problem there. This is a reason why you need to learn to negotiate, okay? When a supplier says something, it doesn't really mean that that's the thing and it's final. Or when a buyer says something, it doesn't mean that that's it and it's final. You need to learn to negotiate, okay? So in this case, you're talking about how exactly do you negotiate with your suppliers? Because failure could result into things like reduced profitability, financial strain, reputational damage. And by the time you're done with this video, you're going to be in a position to learn basic negotiation principles, know how to set negotiation goals, understand the approaches that you can take in negotiation, and also learn how to test and validate your assumptions when making proposals in negotiations. What is negotiation? Well, negotiation is pretty much everything that you do in life. Well, it is a way of living. Think of it that way, right? I mean, you want to go out, you're going to negotiate with whoever you're going out with. You want to get a salary increase, you need to learn how to negotiate. You want someone to pay more for a given product. The point is, negotiation affects everything we do, right? So, from an academic perspective, negotiation is a process of planning, reviewing, and analyzing used by a buyer and a seller when trying to reach acceptable agreement or compromise, which include all aspects of business transaction and not just price. And at this point, I want you to note that negotiation process has two elements. And these are purposeful persuasion and number 2, constructive compromise. And the trick is knowing how both of those two work. So let's look at the buyer-seller dynamic. Look, if a supplier increases their price and the buyer is like, you know what, I'm going to get another supplier. And the supplier is like, yeah, good luck with that. See, that only happens because either 1, the supplier is aware that the buyer lacks options, and 2, it will cost the buyer more to switch the supplier. And the supplier is actually aware of this. So the point is that before you go for any negotiation with a supplier, you need to research that supplier, okay? You need to know at what point are you strong as a buyer, and at what point is the supplier strong, okay? Because without knowing anything about the supplier, then yeah, good luck with that. When is the supplier strong? So the supplier power will depend on factors like the size of the supplier, the degree to which the supplier's service are unique, how hard or easy it is to switch suppliers, the actual cost of switching suppliers. And as far as the buyer is concerned, at what point is the buyer strong? And the buyer's power, remember, power is the ability to influence, okay? So the buyer is going to be strong if there are more suppliers in the market, okay? There are few customers, meaning there are few buyers. The size of the order the buyer is placing, the bigger the order, the more powerful the buyer is, basically because they're bringing in a lot of money. Next, availability of substitutes as well as the cost of changing suppliers is low. And what are you supposed to take at this point? So what you need to take at this point is that you need to increase your power as a buyer if you're negotiating with the supplier. Basically, if you're negotiating with anybody, you need to increase your power. And some of the ways that you can do this, first of all, the thing about power, okay, is that, as we've pointed out, power is the ability to influence. And so power can be in the form of the position you hold, your ability to reward the other party with things like quick payment, positive references, agreement to try new products, okay? What are you an expert on? So that will give you expert power. Things like basic knowledge and stuff like that. What are you good at? Because if you're good at something, then you're powerful as far as questions relating to that thing is concerned. The point is, you need to look at the kind of power you're bringing in the negotiation, since that way you can influence the outcome of that negotiation, okay? Also, this way you're going to be in a position to know, okay? You're going to be in a position to know whether you can realistically negotiate in the first place. How ambitious can you be regarding the objectives, okay? Your objectives, the strategies and tactics open to you that you can use, as well as your walk-away position, because that's just the thing, okay? Not every negotiation will result into an outcome that you desire. At some point, you're just going to have to walk away from that negotiation. And all this will just depend with you knowing the sort of power you possess and the other person possesses as far as that negotiation is concerned. So if the suppliers are stronger than you, then just understand that they are in a better position to walk away than you. Something you need to know. So far we know what negotiation is. We've researched the suppliers or the market that they are in. But then there are still questions, okay? There is still the question of what exactly do you want out of that negotiation? What approaches and principles can help us to get the results we desire? How do we even know that we are making the correct assumptions when negotiating with the supplier? And all these are things that we still need to know. Negotiation skills are important, okay? Irrespective of the industry you are in, it is important. In buying and selling, for instance, you have to learn how to identify approaches to successfully achieving negotiated commercial agreements with external organization. But then there is the reality of your situation. In this case, you could be having challenges like no time to read bulky materials, pressure of exams if you are a student, financial and general life issues. But look, even with all those challenges that you could be going through, you still need to up your game, because if you don't learn to influence, if you don't learn to negotiate for what you want, if you don't know how to validate your proposals, you're just going to be the guy with problems and zero progress. Now look, here's the thing, okay? I've put together lots of video lessons, okay? With practice exercises, downloadable summaries, all designed to help you analyze approaches to the negotiation of agreements made with external parties, prepare for negotiations, know what techniques are available to ensure successful outcomes in negotiations, learn how to formulate a negotiation strategy. So just head over to zeroitnetwork.com and you'll be able to access commercial negotiation, okay, and learn how to negotiate. Or just check the either above or below this video, depending on which platform you're watching these, and you'll have access to commercial negotiation. And yes, I'm going to be there to answer all the questions that you have in relation to whatever it is that you're learning, okay? So head over there once you're done. What are your negotiation goals? And the first thing that you need to know in any negotiation, irrespective of all those things that we've just mentioned, is what are your objectives, okay? What exactly do you intend to get out of that negotiation? Objectives are going to be specific and measurable. Otherwise, how do you really know that you've achieved them? And so objectives in this case can be things like price reduction, an improvement in quality or delivery performance from a supplier. So like in the first example, the Alex and Susan thing, right? Alex was the buyer and Susan was the supplier, right? So in that case, look at it this way. The supplier is interested in price increase because we don't know why. The buyer is interested in reduction of price because, well, so you see, those are their goals. Outcomes are more broadly the result of the negotiation. So when it comes to objectives and outcome, think of it this way. Objective, what you desire. Outcome, what actually happens in that negotiation. So the key thing here is how can you shape the outcome so that it is very closely related to the objective you had when you're negotiating. And that's the thing. Now, the outcome that you desire will, for the most part, determine the kind of approach that you use in negotiation. For example, we have win-lose. In this case, you can get what you want and the other party loses. And so this is mostly in adversarial negotiations where you care so much for the results and you don't really care so much for the relationship. An example, if you're a buyer who's buying in bulk, okay, then it means you're in a better position to control how much, or rather to make the supplier give you a discount than someone who's buying few. So in that case, you see, you get the price that you want and the buyer has no choice. Then again, if the buyer is actually dominant in that market, then it could be the case that they don't care. Again, they're like, look, we have a monopoly. Of them, they're not going to tell you that they have a monopoly, but from the look of things, we have a monopoly, and therefore, if you feel like walking away, just walk away. If anything, good luck. Okay, so that's a win-lose. The risk there is that it doesn't work for long-term sort of contracts. So if you're going to go for long-term with a supplier, then you need to value the relationship, which is where the second approach comes in. In this case, win-win. Basically, both parties get as close as possible to what they really want. In this case, you are interested in the result and you're also interested in the relationship. So this may mean increasing your order quantity, then asking for the price to be slightly reduced. So that way, the supplier still gets to profit by, you buying a lot of products or volumes, and you don't pay like everybody else. And that can also mean negotiating for better payment terms. Like if you're supposed to pay within 30 days, then you could say, okay, you're increasing the price. How about you do this? How about we slightly increase our volume, and then you give us more time to pay. So you see, that means you have more time to do something with the money that you would have given the supplier. So the supplier gets the money, you get, whatever you want. It's a win-win because, again, you value the relationship. So there's that. Now, the thing about negotiation is that it's all about solving a problem. In fact, both of those, whether it's win-win or win-lose, the best way to understand them, which is one of those overused examples, is think about two people who want to share an orange. And so with adversarial, it will be like, look, cut it into half, okay? So I have enough and you have enough. But then what if it turns out that one person wants to make juice and the other person wants to bake a cake and they need the orange peels? So in this case, both parties have gone with half of what they don't want because, they failed to collaborate. The best thing would have been to ask the other person, what exactly do you want from this orange? Well, I need the juice. Cool. What exactly do you want? I need the peels. So you take 100% of the peels, okay, for flavor, and I'll get 100% of the juice. So win-win. So the approach that you use will depend, again, on whether you want a relationship, you just want a result, or you want both. So always think that way when you're negotiating with suppliers. That is after knowing, okay, after researching the suppliers. And now let's talk about testing and validating your assumption. And remember, you started by doing research. So as you go into that negotiation, you're going into that negotiation with a lot of assumptions that you made, which means it's now time for you to test and validate some of the assumptions made during the preparation and planning stage of the negotiation. Test the other party's position, their willingness to collaborate or move, or the intention to oppose or be inflexible. Clarify the stated issues and the importance or value given to them by the other party. Also, trying to ascertain whether there are any surprises ahead. For instance, whether the other party will announce new information not taken into account during planning. Now, let's assume that we are going into this negotiation. And remember, Alex, Susan, right? So the assumption you're making in this case, let's assume that you're assuming that the supplier will lower their price if we order more quantity. How do we test this assumption? Now, in this case, you want to make a proposal that has both price and increase, okay? in volumes that you're going to order, or rather increase in quantity. So that's what you want to do. So this could be something like, we're just going to increase our order by 10%. This way you can reduce the price by 25%. Now, of course, you're going to do some accounting to figure out whether 25%, 10%, the point is I just made those numbers up. But you're not going to make numbers up. Those numbers have to be realistic depending on your business position. So as you make that kind of proposal, what you're doing is you observe the supplier. You observe them to see their reaction, okay? So that you can know if your assumption is actually correct. Because if it isn't, then you'll clearly start to learn that there is no point. I mean, all this negotiation is not going to be, it's not going to result into the sort of outcome that I desire. And again, look, there are many things that you can do as far as negotiation is concerned. When it comes to there are a lot of assumptions that you make. You could be making an assumption about delivery, okay? That you're assuming the supplier is going to, incur the cost of delivery because you read somewhere that in sale of goods contract, unless otherwise stated, the supplier incurs the cost of delivery. Well, maybe they're not going to do it this time. So there are a lot of assumptions that you make, discounts, okay? All that stuff. Anyway, to sum all this up, okay? When you're negotiating, there are things that you need to pay attention to. So let's sum this up and finish this video. So number one, separate people from the problem or the issue. Because if you just focus on the position the person takes, which is pretty much the problem that you're dealing with, then that just makes it a positional negotiation, which will turn into an adversarial negotiation, where you just want to push for your position, okay, and win, and then you don't care about the other person. Now, the thing about that is that it looks good in movies. Like if you're watching Suits and then you see Harvey Specter doing that, or Mike Ross, or you're watching, Saul Goodman doing his thing, okay, and then you're like, if I'm going to negotiate, I'll push them. Look, this is not a movie. It's reality, okay? You do that, long term, your business is not going to succeed. So what is the rule here? Simple. Separate people from the problem and then focus on the problem. Now, number two, focus on interest and not position. See, that's the thing. When somebody says something like, that's the position is you're going to increase the price. But why? Okay? Why will tell you about their interest. So you always want to understand why are they doing what they're doing, because that way you can know how to turn things around. Like in our example there, where the supplier says you're going to increase the price of chocolates. Why are they doing that? If the price increase is just because, they want to make more profit, then it will make more sense to tell them that, okay, look, if it's just profit driven, then we can increase our order. That way, you'll still profit from volumes, okay? If the price increase is simply because the supplier is trying to impress their boss, then you can say, okay, how about we change our payment terms so that now we're going to pay slightly faster than we used to pay before, and we are going to order more frequently. I mean, yes, still the same amount, but we pay faster and then we order more frequently. So you see, once you know their interest, it's easier to negotiate. So the key thing here is find out more about the party's position and why they hold that position. Clearly express your own interest and discuss them together. Focus on solutions rather than dwelling on the past, and then focus clearly on your interest, but remain open to different proposals and positions. So that's the thing. But then again, remember, all this sounds like if I'm just saying, look, collaborate, there's always going to be a solution. The truth is, not all negotiation, not all interest can be reconciled. Think of it this way. If you have a hunter, okay, who's like, I'm going to hunt a lion. Why? Because I want to take the skin for some weird reason, and that's going to be a trophy. So there's that hunter. That is their interest, right? And then there is this lion that is thinking, I'm hungry and I need to eat something. Oh, look, there's a hunter. So you see, in this case, okay, none of those interests can be, they just can't be reconciled, okay? So somebody's going to win, someone is going to lose, and leave lions alone. They have their lion-related problems, okay, and hyenas to deal with. Anyway, look, if there is any question, do let me know, and don't forget to check out the, negotiation training if you're interested. And yep, I'll see you in the next video.